The galaxy was bright with millions of stars. But for her, life was only darkness. She was known as Slave 47. No one called her by a name. No one cared. She lived in chains, in the shadow of the alien empire. The rulers were tall, cruel creatures with silver eyes and voices that cut like blades. To them, humans were nothing, just servants, slaves, and toys. Every day she was ordered to clean the halls, to carry food, to kneel when spoken to. If she was too slow, the whip cracked. If she raised her eyes, the whip cracked again. She had learned silence. She had learned to hide her pain behind empty eyes, but deep inside, she still carried a small spark, a secret dream. She wanted freedom. She wanted to see the stars, not as a prisoner, but as a person. Still, dreams were dangerous here. Many slaves had been killed for less. One evening, the slaves were taken to the auction hall. The hall was a cold, shining place filled with alien lords and wealthy merchants. They came from many worlds, green-skinned, red-scaled, winged or clawed, but they all had one thing in common: their hunger for power and control. Slave 47 stood on the platform with others. Lights shone down and the auction began. The announcer shouted prices while the crowd raised their hands. Strong back, good for labor; pretty face, good for pleasure. Each human was sold like an object. And each time, the slaves lowered their eyes, afraid to meet the gaze of their new masters. Finally, it was her turn. The announcer pulled her forward by the arm. Lot number 47. Personal servant, trained, obedient, silent. The crowd looked at her. Some laughed, some whispered. A few placed small bids. She stood still, her hands trembling, but her face cold. Then something strange happened. The doors at the back opened, and a man walked in. Not an alien, not a lord, a human. His clothes were torn, his boots covered in dust. His face was tired, his eyes full of shadows. But there was something in his look that made her heart pause. He moved closer. The crowd turned to watch. Some laughed, some spat. "What is a beggar doing here?" One alien hissed. "He cannot pay for even bread." Another mocked. But the man did not stop. His eyes stayed on her. The announcer, confused, raised his voice. "Do you wish to place a bid, traveler?" The man reached into his pocket. Slowly, he pulled out a single coin. It was old, scratched, almost worthless. He held it up. "This is all I have." The hall roared with laughter. "One coin? For a slave. Pathetic. Throw him out." But the man's voice was calm. "I will give my last coin for her." Slave 47's heart raced. She had never seen anything like this. Why? Why her? Why would a man waste his last coin on a worthless slave? The announcer sneered. "One coin? Ridiculous. The bid is rejected." The man's eyes turned hard. "Then take the coin, and take my life debt. I will work, I will fight, I will bleed. But she will be mine, not as a slave, but as my wife." The room went silent. For the first time, Slave 47 lifted her head. Her eyes met his. She saw no cruelty, no hunger, no chains in his gaze. Only fire. The aliens shouted in anger. Some demanded he be punished. Others laughed at his madness. But the announcer, greedy for drama, finally slammed his staff down. Sold. The chains around her wrists were unlocked. She stumbled forward, still in shock. The man reached out and took her hand. His touch was rough but gentle. "You are free now," he whispered. "Free and mine." As they walked out of the hall, the crowd still murmured behind them. Some called it foolish, others called it madness. But the girl felt something she had never felt before. Hope, for the first Time in her life, someone had chosen her not as property, but as a person. Not as a slave, but as a wife. Yet, in the shadows of the hall, dark eyes followed them. Alien hunters whispered to each other. She was sold too cheaply. She carries more value than he knows. We will take her back. The girl held the man's hand tighter, but her heart trembled. She was free. But for how long? The night air was cold as they stepped into the streets. The city lights burned above, alien towers rising into the sky. She looked up at the stars, wondering if her dream of freedom had finally begun, or if this was just another cruel trick of fate. The man walked beside her, silent but strong. She wanted to ask his name, but her lips would not move. She wanted to ask why he saved her, why he risked everything for her. But the words stuck in her throat, and then from the darkness, shadows moved. Figures stepped out, surrounding them. Tall, cruel, silver-eyed, the hunters. One spoke with a hiss. She does not belong to you, human. She belongs to us. Slave 47's breath caught in her chest. Her chains were gone, but new ones were already. Reaching for her, the man moved forward, standing between her and the hunters. His hand went to the blade at his side. His voice was low, steady. She belongs to no one. The hunters grinned, weapons glinting in the night. The fight was about to begin. The night was heavy with silence, but danger was close. Around them, the alien hunters stood like wolves, circling prey. Their silver eyes gleamed, their weapons sharp. Slave 47 clutched the torn sleeve of the man who had freed her. For the first time in her life, she was unchained, but freedom could end here. On a dark street, under the cold alien moon, the leader of the hunters stepped forward. His voice was smooth but cruel. "You paid 1 coin, he sneered. "But she is worth far more. She belongs to us. Give her back, and maybe we will let you live." The man did not move. He placed himself between her and the hunters, his back straight, though his clothes were ragged. His hand rested on the hilt of a small blade. His voice was calm, steady, and dangerous. "She belongs to no one. Not anymore." The hunters laughed. One raised his weapon, the tip glowing red with deadly energy. "You are only a man with a toy blade. Do you really think you can stand against us?" The girl's heart pounded. She had seen many humans beaten, broken, and sold again. She had seen masters laugh while slaves begged for mercy. She braced herself for the moment when this strange man would fall, when she would be dragged back in chains. But the man did not bow. He leaped forward with sudden speed. The blade flashed in the night. One hunter fell with a cry, clutching his side. The others hissed in anger, surrounding him. The girl froze. Fear chained her feet, but her mind screamed, "Run, escape." Yet she did not run. Something stronger held her in place. Watching him fight, something stirred inside her chest. He was not fighting for money. He was not fighting for power. He was fighting for her, but he was only one man. His blade struck, but their weapons struck back. Sparks flew as he blocked. Blood dripped as he stumbled. He was brave, but he was breaking. One hunter knocked him down. Another raised a glowing spear, aiming for his heart. Something inside her snapped. Her fear burned away. Without thinking, she grabbed a fallen weapon from the ground, a small plasma rod, still warm in her hand. She had never held such a thing, but her grip was firm. "No," she shouted. Her voice, silent for years, broke through the night. The hunters turned in shock. Slave 47 stood tall, her eyes blazing. The rod hissed to life. With sudden strength, she swung it at the nearest hunter. He screamed as the weapon cut across his armor. The man looked up, his face pale with blood, but his eyes burning with pride. "You can fight," he whispered. Together, they pushed back. The man struck with his blade, she with the stolen rod. The hunters, surprised by the girl's fury, hesitated. One fell, another stumbled back. The rest cursed and pulled away. "This is not over," their leader spat. "The Empire will take her back. She cannot escape her fate." With that, they vanished into the shadows. Silence returned. The girl dropped the rod, her hands shaking. She looked at the man, his clothes torn, his arm bleeding but still standing. He smiled, though his lips trembled. "You are stronger than you think." She stared at him. Questions swirled in her mind. Why had he saved her? Why had he risked everything? He had nothing, not wealth, not power, not safety. And yet, he had spent his last coin for her. Finally, she found her voice. "Why me?" The man's eyes softened. He touched the wound on his side, but his voice was steady. "Because you are more than a slave. You just don't know it yet." She frowned, confused. More, he did not answer fully. Instead, he turned toward the dark alleys ahead. "We must leave the city. They will come again. They will not stop." They moved quickly, staying in shadows. The alien city rose around them, towers of steel, glowing signs in strange languages, ships flying above like burning stars. Everywhere, humans walked with chains around their necks, heads bowed. Afraid to look up, the girl felt their eyes on her free wrists. On the man beside her? Whispers followed them. How is she free? Who is he? She wanted to shout, to tell them to rise, to tell them freedom was possible. But she kept silent. Freedom was fragile. It could be stolen back at any moment. At last, they reached the edges of the city, where broken walls met the open desert. A small cargo ship sat hidden among rocks, old and rusted. The man led her to it. "This will take us away," he said. She stepped inside. The ship smelled of dust and oil. Its walls hummed weakly as he powered it up. She sat in silence, her heart racing. Finally, she asked again, her voice low. "Who are you?" He looked at her, his face shadowed by the dim lights. "My name is..." Cale, the name echoed in her mind. Cale, the man who gave his last coin for her. The man who called her free. The man who called her wife. As the ship lifted into the night sky, the city grew small behind them. For the first time, she saw the stars without chains. Her heart trembled. But Cale's words echoed in her ears. They will not stop. And indeed, as the stars grew brighter, a red light flashed on the ship's panel. Cale's face hardened. "They have tracked us." The girl's breath caught. Freedom had only just begun, but already, the Empire was hunting them again. The ship shook as alarms screamed. Red lights flashed across the small cabin. Slave 47, no, not a slave anymore, clutched the side rail as the old cargo vessel lifted into the night sky. Her breath was sharp, her heart racing. For the first time, she was not bound by chains. For the first time, she was leaving the city behind. But freedom was fragile. On the screen, a red dot blinked closer and closer. "They are following us," Cale muttered, his hands flying across the controls. His voice was calm, but his jaw was tight. The Empire wastes no time. She swallowed hard. "Can we escape?" Cale glanced at her. His eyes were steady, though his body was bruised and bleeding. "We will try." The ship broke through the atmosphere into the endless black of space. Stars spread across the window, millions of them, shining like sparks of hope. For a moment, the girl stared in silence. She had dreamed of this, to see the stars as more than a slave, to breathe without chains. But the dream was cut short. On the radar, several dots appeared fast, sharp, and deadly. Empire scout ships. They "We'll fire soon," Cale said. He gripped the controls, pulling the old vessel into a dive. The engines roared, the ship shuddered, and stars blurred into streaks of light. The girl was thrown against the seat, clutching the belt. Behind them, bright beams of energy tore through the darkness. One shot grazed the hull. Sparks flew, alarms screamed louder. Her voice shook. "This ship, it cannot fight them." Cale's lips curved in a faint smile, even in danger. "It cannot, but neither can it give up." The chase grew wild. The cargo ship twisted through asteroid fields, its old engines groaning. Cale's hands moved like a man born in the cockpit, every turn sharp, every dive close to death. The Empire scouts fired again and again, but Cale pushed the ship through narrow gaps in the rocks. Explosions lit up the void as asteroids shattered. Behind them, the girl could hardly breathe. Every second felt like her last, but every time she thought they were finished, Cale found a way through. Still, the enemy did not stop. The lead scout ship locked on. A missile streaked forward, cutting through the dark like a burning spear. Cale slammed the controls. The ship rolled hard. The missile missed the engine by inches, exploding against an asteroid. The shockwave slammed them sideways. Metal screamed. Panels cracked, and Cale hit his head against the console. Blood ran down his temple. His vision blurred. The girl's heart stopped. Cale, his hands slipped from the controls. The ship tilted, spinning toward the rocks. She moved without thinking. Her hands grabbed the controls. She had never flown, but her fingers gripped with desperate strength. She pulled hard, fighting the spinning. The ship groaned, but steadied. Cale blinked, his voice weak. "You saved us." She shook her head, fear in her eyes. "I don't know what I'm doing." "You know more than you think," he whispered. The scouts closed in again. Their weapons charged. The girl's pulse pounded. She searched the panel, eyes wide. And then she saw a switch marked with faded letters. Boost, she slammed it down. The ship screamed as hidden engines roared alive. A sudden burst of power threw them forward like a comet. Stars streaked into lines. The scouts fell behind. There. Weapons firing into empty space. Silence returned. Only the hum of the engines remained. The girl leaned back, shaking. She stared at her hands, at the controls, at the stars flying past. She had done it. She had flown them away from death. Cale coughed, holding his side. His voice was faint, but proud. "You see? You are more than chains, more than fear." She looked at him. His face was pale, his body weak, but his eyes burned like fire. She wanted to ask again, why her? Why spend his last coin on her? But the words stayed inside. Instead, she asked softly, "Where are we going?" Cale's eyes closed for a moment, his breath shallow. Then he whispered, away from them, towards something greater. The stars stretched as the ship entered hyperspace. The enemy scouts vanished behind. For now, they were safe. The girl sat in silence, her heart still racing. She looked at Cale, slumped in his seat. She reached out, gently touching his hand. He had saved her. And tonight, she had saved him. For the first time, she felt it dash trust, but in the quiet hum of hyperspace, questions haunted her. Who was Cale? Truly, why did he risk everything? And why did the hunters say she was worth far more than he knew? As she thought, Cale stirred. His lips moved. "You must know," he whispered. His voice was weak, his breath heavy. "You are not just a slave. Inside you is something they fear." Her eyes widened. "What do you mean?" But Cale's head fell back, his body limped from exhaustion. He said no more. The girl sat frozen, her mind spinning. Something inside her, something the Empire feared. Her heart trembled. She looked out the window. The stars rushed past like rivers of light. For the first time, she was free, flying through the endless night. But freedom was not simple. Freedom carried secrets. And some secrets were powerful enough to shake empires. On the ship's radar, far behind them, a signal flickered. A much larger vessel had locked onto their trail, an empire. Battleship, the chase was not over. The hum of hyperspace filled the ship. Stars stretched like rivers of light, yet inside the cabin, the air was heavy with silence. She sat beside Cale, watching him breathe. His wounds were deep, his body weak. She had wrapped his arm with cloth, cleaned the blood from his face, but still, he looked fragile. Her mind spun with his last words. Inside you is something they fear. What did? That means she was only a slave, born in chains, raised in darkness. What secret could she possibly hold that made the Empire hunt her so desperately? She touched her wrist where the shackles had once been. The skin was raw, the marks still red. She closed her eyes, remembering the cold auction hall, the cruel laughter, the hunter's voices. She is worth far more than he knows. Far more. Why? Cale stirred. His eyes opened slowly, and she leaned closer. You should rest, she whispered. He smiled faintly. I've rested enough. There are things you need to know. Her chest tightened. What things? Cale sat up with effort, his gaze fixed on her. Do you remember your childhood? The question struck her like a blade. She shook her head. No, nothing. I remember the mines, the whips, the cold floors. That is all. Cale's eyes darkened. That is not all. You were not born a slave. You were taken. Her breath caught. Taken. Yes, he said softly. Before the chains, you were someone else, someone important. The Empire erased your name, your family, your past. They hid you in the slave registers because of what you carry. She stared at him, her voice trembling. What do I carry? Cale leaned closer. His voice dropped to a whisper. In your blood, in your very cells, lies a code. It was placed there long ago, when humans still fought against the Empire. It is the key to the old defense network, the machines, the weapons, the shields. The Empire shut it all down when they won. But your DNA can awaken it again. Her hands trembled. That's impossible. Cale shook his head. It is true. I've seen the records. The hunters knew it too. That's why they wanted you back. That's why I had to free you. She pulled back, her heart pounding. So you bought me. 'Cause of this code? Because I am a key. Cale's eyes softened. He reached for her hand, though his fingers shook. I bought you because you are human, because you deserve freedom. The code, it only means the Empire will never stop hunting you. But you were never only a slave. You were always more. Tears stung her eyes, though she fought them back. For years, she had believed she was nothing. Now, Cale was telling her she carried the power to fight the Empire itself. But was it true? Or was this just another cruel trick? The ship shuddered. Warning lights flashed across the panel. Cale's eyes hardened, staggered to the controls. They found us. She ran to his side. The scouts? No, Cale whispered. His voice was grim. Worse. On the screen, a massive shadow appeared. A battleship, dark and enormous, filled the radar. Its weapons glowed like burning suns. Her heart froze. We cannot fight that. Cale's fingers moved quickly, pressing switches. No, we cannot. But maybe we can hide. The ship jolted as Cale steered it toward a nearby planet. Its surface was covered in storms, lightning flashing across the clouds. The battleship followed close, its cannons charging. Energy blasts tore through the sky. Shaking the cargo vessel, panels burst, sparks rained down. The girl screamed as fire licked across the walls. Cale gritted his teeth. Hold on. The ship dived into the planet's storm. Thunder roared. Winds slammed against them. Lightning flashed so bright it blinded her eyes. For minutes, it was chaos. Finally, silence. The storm wrapped around them like a cloak. The battleships. Radar could not see through the storms. For now, they were hidden. The girl's hands shook as she touched the cracked panel. We will not survive this for long. Cale nodded. His face was pale, but his eyes were steady. We don't need to. We just need to find the truth. She frowned. The truth. Cale looked at her with a strange light in his eyes. There is a place on this planet. An old station, abandoned since the war. I believe it holds the records of who you are and what you are meant to do. Her breath caught. My past? Yes, Cale whispered. Your past. And perhaps our future. The storm howled outside as the ship drifted lower into the clouds. Her heart pounded. She wanted to know. She wanted answers. But fear gnawed at her chest. What if the truth was worse than the chains? Still, she nodded. Then we go. Smiled weakly. Good, you are braver than you believe. As the ship descended, lightning lit the horizon. Far below, through the storm, she saw the outline of a ruined structure, tall towers broken. Lights, long dead, buried in the planet's storms. The abandoned station, her past waited inside. But so did the Empire, in the distance. Above the storm, the battleship waited, silent, watching and inside its halls. Her old master smiled. She cannot hide forever, he whispered. She will come to me. The storm roared around them like an angry beast. Lightning split the sky, painting the clouds in white fire. The old cargo ship shuddered as it pushed through the storm. Engines burning against the winds. The girl, no longer just slave, 47, stared out the window. Her eyes fixed on the shadow below. Through the clouds, the outline of the ruined station appeared. Towers broken, walls scarred. A skeleton of a place once filled with power. Her heart pounded. Somewhere inside those ruins lay the truth of her past. Beside her, Cale's hands gripped the controls. His face was pale, his wound bleeding. Through the bandage, yet his eyes stayed sharp. We land here, he said. Be ready. The Empire won't let us search in peace. The ship groaned as it descended. Finally, with a heavy crash, it landed on the cracked platform of the old station. Sparks flew. The engines died. For a moment, silence. Only the howl of the storm. Outside, Cale stood, his blade at his side. He turned to her. Stay close. Whatever we find in here, don't lose hope. She nodded, though her stomach twisted with fear. They stepped into the ruins. The air was thick with dust, the walls broken and burned. Strange machines lay scattered, their lights long dead. As they moved deeper, she felt a strange pull in her chest, as if the place was calling to her. Then, a voice. Not Cale's. Not from the storm. You have returned. She froze. Her breath caught. The voice was inside her mind, soft, ancient, and powerful. Cale looked at her sharply. What is it? She shook her head, trembling a voice. It spoke to me. Before Cale could answer, the ground shook. From the shadows, figures stepped out. Hunters, dozens of them, silver-eyed, armored weapons glowing. At their center stood her old master, taller than the rest, his cruel smile sharp as a blade. I told you, he said, his voice echoing through the broken halls. You cannot hide from me. The girl's heart froze. She felt the sting of old chains. Memories of the whip, the orders, the endless pain. Her legs trembled. Cale stepped in front of her, blade raised. His voice was steady. "You will not." "Take her," the master laughed. "You spent your last coin for her. You bled for her, and now you will die for her. But she," he pointed at the girl, "she will return to where she belongs. At my feet." The hunters raised their weapons. The girl gripped Kale's arm. Fear burned in her chest. She wanted to run, but there was nowhere to go. She wanted to fight, but she was only one against many. The master's voice rang out, "Seize them." The hunters charged. Kale fought like a storm of steel. His blade flashed, striking down the first, then the second. Sparks flew as weapons clashed, but there were too many. The girl grabbed a fallen rod, just as she had in the city. Her hands shook, but she forced herself forward. She swung, striking. One hunter across the chest, another lunged, and she ducked, her rod glowing with heat as it cut through his armor. She was no longer a silent slave. She was fighting, but the hunters pressed harder. Kale was knocked to his knees, blood staining the floor. The master walked closer, his silver eyes glowing. "Look at him," the master sneered. "Weak, bleeding, dying. Did you truly believe he could save you?" The girl's chest heaved. She raised the rod again, but the master moved faster. He struck her down, chains wrapping around her wrists once more. The cold bite of metal cut into her skin. She gasped. The old pain returned. She was chained again. The master leaned close, whispering in her ear, "You cannot escape what you are. A slave, that is all you will ever be." But then the voice inside her mind returned. Stronger, fiercer. "No, you are not chains. You are fire." The girl's eyes widened. Her body trembled. Heat spread through her veins, burning brighter than fear. The chains around her wrists glowed red, then shattered into pieces. The master stepped back, shock flashing across his face. "What?" The girl rose to her feet. Her eyes burned with light. Energy pulsed from her body, shaking the walls of the station. Machines long dead flickered with life. Lights glowed. The air vibrated with power. Kale looked up, his eyes wide. Ilara. The name fell from his lips. Her name, she gasped, the sound echoing like thunder. She remembered it. She was not Slave 47. She was Ilara, and she was no longer chained. The hunters stumbled back, their weapons sparking. The master's voice shook with rage. "No, you are mine." Ilara raised her hand. Energy burst outward, a wave of light that threw the hunters against the walls. Chains snapped. Weapons shattered. The master roared, his armor burning, but still he stood. "This changes nothing. The Empire will break you." Ilara's voice was steady, filled with fire. "No, the Empire will fear me." She turned, helping Kale to his feet. His body shook with pain, but his eyes shone with pride. The station walls hummed with power, ancient machines awakening. The storm outside grew louder, lightning striking in rhythm with her heartbeat. Ilara stood tall, no longer a slave, no longer silent. She was the key. She was fire, but in the distance, above the storm. The Empire battleship moved closer, and inside. The high commanders watched the energy surge from the ruins. "She has awakened," one whispered. "Then she must be destroyed," another replied. The master, his body burned but unbroken, smiled through the smoke. "This is only the beginning." The ruins shook with the sound of awakening machines. Blue lights flickered across broken walls. Towers that had slept for centuries hummed with sudden power. Ilara stood in the center. Her chains shattered, her body glowing with energy. The storm outside roared louder, as if the planet itself answered her call. Kale leaned against the wall, blood on his lips, but his eyes locked on her with awe. You've awakened it." Elara's chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. She could still feel the fire inside her, burning in her veins. It was terrifying, yet beautiful. She clenched her fists, and sparks leaped from her fingers. She was no longer powerless. She was no longer chained. The hunters groaned on the ground, broken from the wave she had unleashed. But one figure still stood tall, her old master. His armor was burned, his face scarred, but his silver eyes gleamed with rage. "You think this power makes you free?" he growled, stepping forward. "It only makes you more valuable. And when the Empire takes you, they will cut that fire from your bones." Elara's voice shook, but it carried strength. "You will never control me again." The master lunged. His blade flashed, striking with deadly speed. Elara raised her hand, and energy pulsed outward. The blade met the force, sparks exploding. In the air, Kale tried to stand, but his wound dragged him down. Elara. The master struck again and again, his strength monstrous. Elara blocked each strike, energy surging, but every clash rattled her bones. She was still learning this power-wild, untamed, dangerous. Her arms shook, her heart pounded. The master grinned. "You are strong, but strength without control is nothing." He pushed harder, his blade nearly breaking through her shield of light. Elara screamed. Her power flaring, but cracks formed in her energy, burning her skin. Kale's voice cut through the chaos. "Elara, listen to me." Her eyes flicked to him, sweat dripping down her face. "Do not fight the power," Kale said. His voice was weak, but steady. "Become it." Elara's chest tightened. She closed her eyes for a breath, hearing the voice inside her once more. "You are not chains, you are fire." The fear slipped away. The fire spread, not as a storm, but as a steady flame. Warm, bright, alive. Her eyes opened. They glowed with light. The master swung again, but this time she caught the blade in her hand. The metal burned red, melting under her touch. The master's eyes widened. Impossible. Elara's energy burst outward, flames of light consuming the room. The hunters screamed as their weapons shattered. Machines came alive, responding to her call. She pushed the master back, step by step, until his armor cracked and his blade fell to the ground. He stumbled, his voice a growl. This is not the end. You cannot burn forever. The Empire will crush you." Elara raised her hand, light glowing brighter than the storm outside. "Let them try." She unleashed a blast of fire that threw him across the ruins. His body hit the wall, and he disappeared into smoke and shadow. Silence fell. The hunters fled, leaving broken weapons behind. Elara collapsed to her knees, trembling. The fire dimmed, but its warmth still lived inside her. Kale dragged himself closer, his voice filled with pride. "Elara, you are free." She looked at him, her eyes wet. "Free, but hunted." Kale smiled faintly, blood dripping from his lips. "Then we hunt them back." She shook her head. "You are wounded. You cannot fight anymore." His hand reached for hers, gripping weakly. "I will fight as long as I breathe." "Not for me." "For you." Her throat tightened. She had been nothing but a slave. Yet this man had given everything, his last coin, his blood, his strength, to keep her free. She squeezed his hand. "Then I will fight too. For us." The station rumbled. The ancient machines pulsed as if waiting. Screens flickered with strange symbols, maps of stars, old codes. Elara touched one, and the system responded. A hidden AI spoke in her mind. Command recognized. "The flame has returned." Kale's eyes widened. "You can control it." Elara's heart pounded. She saw flashes in the screen's fleets, weapons, human armies long dead, and defenses that could rise again. She was the key, but her hands trembled. Power this great could change everything or destroy it. Before she could answer, the storm outside split apart. Light tore through the clouds as the Empire battleship descended. Its cannons glowed, targeting the ruins. Kale pulled her to her. "Feet. They're coming." The AI whispered again in her mind. "Take the ship. Use the flame. Strike back." Ilara looked at Kale. His face was pale, his strength fading, but his eyes burned with the same fire she felt inside. She nodded. "Then we rise." The battleship's cannons charged. The ground shook. Ilar placed her hand on the station's console. The ruins glowed brighter. Machines rising from the earth, old weapons humming with life. For the first time in centuries. The fire of resistance burned again. Kale's voice was faint, but steady. "This is the beginning of a war." Ilira's eyes glowed with light as she whispered, "No, this is the beginning of freedom." The cannons fired, and the ruins answered. The ground shook as the Empire battleship fired its cannons. Bolts of burning light cut through the storm, striking the ruins where Ilara and Kale stood. The air exploded with fire and dust. Towers cracked. The old station trembled as if it might collapse, but Ilara stood tall. Her hand pressed against the glowing console, her eyes filled with fire. The ancient machines, long asleep, answered her call. Towers of steel rose from the earth, cannons unfolded from the ruins. Shields flared alive. Kale watched, leaning against the wall for support, his body weak, but his eyes fierce. "You're waking it." The old defenses. Ilara's voice was steady, not waking, rebirthing. The ruins shone with light, brighter than the storm, brighter than the battleship's cannons. And for the first time in centuries, the planet fought back. The Empire ship loomed above, its shadow stretching across the clouds. It fired again, beams of fire raining down. But this time, the ruins answered. Energy shields rose, blocking the blasts. Old cannons turned upward and released fire of their own. The sky lit up with war. Ilara felt the power rushing through her veins, guiding the machines, bending the ancient systems to her will. It was not just fire. It was purpose. It was destiny. The battleship roared, sending smaller ships swarming down. Hunters with wings of steel dove through the storm, their weapons blazing. Ilara lifted her hand, and the ruins' guns locked onto the hunters. One by one, the small ships exploded in flames. But still, they came. Endless, relentless. Kale staggered forward, blade in his hand. His voice was hoarse, but strong. "They will not stop. Not until you are theirs or dead." Ilara's chest tightened. She looked at him, bleeding, trembling, yet still standing beside her. He had given everything for her. His last coin. His strength, his blood. Her eyes burned with tears and fire. "Then I will not stop either." The console flickered, showing star maps, hidden channels, signals across the galaxy. The AI's voice filled her mind. "The flame has returned." "Shall we call?" "Them. Call who?" she whispered. "The scattered, the broken, the enslaved. All who wait for freedom. Call them, and they will rise." Ilara's breath caught. Across the galaxy, humans still lived in chains, broken, silent. Waiting, she could summon them now. She could unite them. But with that power came risk. If she failed, they would all be hunted down, destroyed, crushed before they even began. Kale's hand touched hers on the console. His voice was faint, but steady. "Do it. Give them hope." She met his gaze. His eyes were weak, but still burning. She nodded. She pressed her hand against the console. Her voice rang through the ruins, through the machines, through the skies. I am Elara, she said, her voice strong. I was once a slave, but no more. I was once silent, but no more. They chained us. They broke us. They called us nothing. But we are everything. They took our stars. Now we take them back. The AI carried her words across the galaxy, to every hidden place, every dark mine, every broken colony. Humans everywhere lifted their heads as her voice reached them, for the first time in generations. They heard not silence, but a call to rise. The battleship fired again, furious. Its cannons burned brighter, its engines roaring. But the ruins fought back harder, ancient weapons glowing with Elara's fire. The sky became a storm of light and steel. The master appeared again on the battlefield, his armor cracked, but his eyes still burning with hate. He stepped through the smoke, his voice venom. You can rise, but you will fall again. The empire is endless, and you are only one. Elara's fire blazed brighter. She stepped forward, chains no longer on her wrists, her voice steady. I am not one. I am many. We are many. The master lunged, blade raised. Elara caught it. With her hand of fire, the metal melted. She pushed him back, her energy burning through him. He roared in rage, but she stood unbroken. Her fire surged, and with one last burst, she cast him into the storm. His scream was swallowed by thunder. Kale collapsed to his knees, weak from blood loss. Elara rushed to his side, cradling him. His lips trembled, whispering her name. Elara, Alchi. Held him close, her tears mixing with the firelight. Stay with me. He smiled faintly, his hand weak against hers. I told you, you would change everything. Her heart broke, but her fire stayed strong. And I told you, I would fight for us. Above them, the Empire battleship shuddered. Its shields cracked, its engines burned. The ruins' weapons, fueled by Elara's power, struck one final time. The massive ship exploded, torn apart in fire. The sky lit with victory. The storm quieted. The ruins glowed softly, alive once more. Across the galaxy, humans who heard her call began to rise. Chains fell. Whispers turned into shouts. The fire spread. Elara stood tall, Kale at her side. Her eyes glowing with dawn's first light. She was no longer Slave 47, no longer a nameless servant. She was Elara. The flame of freedom, and this was only the beginning.